Good morning. I'd like to get started. Welcome to the Spring 2022 graduation ceremony. My name is Joseph Labuz, Professor and Department Head for Civil, Environmental, and Geoengineering. Our name reflects our 3 degree programs, and our vision is inspired and innovative engineering for society. We are here to celebrate the achievements of the graduates, but first I'd like to provide some history of the department. In 1871, the Board of Regents voted to form a civil engineering program in response to the country's need for civil engineers to design and construct bridges, dams, roads, tunnels, and other infrastructure. The program steadily grew, and in 1910, the university established the Department of Civil Engineering. Some 70 years later, the newly constructed civil engineering building opened and received the Outstanding Achievement Award from the American Society of Civil Engineers for pioneering use of underground space. 95% of our building is underground. Environmental engineering became a degree program in 2014, but work related to the environment has been part of the department since it was formed. For example, the chief engineer for the first wastewater facility in Minnesota, the Pig's Eye Water Treatment Plant, joined the department's faculty soon after the facility was opened, and he helped establish the University of Minnesota as a national leader in environmental engineering. Today, students and faculty continue to solve problems in water quality, as well as pollutant fate and transport, groundwater remediation, stream restoration, and many other areas. The history of geoengineering dates back to 1888, when the School of Mines was established. In its glory days, the School of Mines offered degrees in mining, metallurgical, petroleum, and geoengineering. The School of Mines has a special place in the hearts of Minnesotans because in 1946, a process was discovered to change taconite rock into commercial iron ore. The School of Mines was disbanded in 1970, and geoengineering found a home in our department. Indeed, the University of Minnesota geoengineers have been responsible for many advances in the science and engineering of the subsurface, including computational methods, drilling techniques, and rock support interaction design, to name a few areas. Throughout the years, students and faculty have produced valuable work benefiting communities in Minnesota and beyond. I already mentioned the water treatment facility and the taconite process. In addition, some of the world's largest dams have been designed and studied in our hydraulics laboratory. The new 35W bridge contains hundreds of our sensors that monitor force, movement, and temperature, and this information is being used to analyze performance. Graduates in civil, environmental, and geoengineering, you will provide the bedrock on which our society will continue to flourish. Many challenges remain, and I look forward to your inspired and innovative engineering for society. I am now proud to introduce our student speaker, a representative of the graduating class of 2022, Jeffrey Bauers, a civil engineering major, will present his views on the challenges ahead. Please join me in welcoming Jeffrey Bauers.
I want to be the first, second, to welcome all the graduates and their friends and families to the Department of Civil, Environmental, and Geoengineering's graduation ceremony. I know all the graduates are thrilled that this day finally came, and personally, I've been looking forward to this day since I realized that the civil engineering lecture rooms have 0 windows at all. When I was younger, I was always in awe of how those large bridges stayed standing. when I was picking a college major, I decided that I wanted to be one of those people who designed those bridges. After my first week in a structures class, I had decided that I was not going to be a structural engineer. And I was going to leave that to some of my classmates. What I had also realized was that the civil, environmental, and geoengineering discipline had a lot of opportunities to explore and a lot of issues to confront. Civil, environmental, and geoengineers mold the infrastructure that current and future engineers will use to go about their daily lives. These engineers work in so many different fields and specialties. Everything from highways to tap water is available to the public due to the expertise of these engineers. Flood infrastructure, retaining walls, and brownfield remediations are all designed and maintained by the people who went through the same coursework and exams as all of us. In the coming years, these challenges will increasingly fall on some of the graduates in this room to solve, and I have no doubt that the future engineers in this room will have the knowledge and problem-solving skills to meet these challenges head-on. Infrastructure projects can massively improve society. However, past infrastructure projects have also illustrated the consequences of poor decision-making and neglectful planning. The public rarely says anything about infrastructure that is working properly or that was designed extremely well. However, mistakes and poor decisions will often make the local 5 o'clock news and serve as a catalyst for the creation of a few different neighborhood groups. I strongly believe that the future engineers in this room must learn from the mistakes of the past. I also strongly believe that the graduates in this room will rise to the challenge. The CEGE faculty has consistently lectured about the importance of not only understanding the whole problem, but also understanding the whole impact of the solution. To conclude these types of speeches, often the speaker will leave the audience with some words of wisdom to guide them in the years to come. There's irony in me supposedly having wisdom for all of you graduates. I rarely understood anything in lecture on the first or second or third time I even saw it. While concepts just seemed to click for some of my classmates, I was often left staring at my notes and homework, wondering how on earth I was ever going to be able to cobble together a passing grade on the upcoming exam. The way I made it through my classes was to ask questions to anybody who would listen. I must have asked professors, teaching assistants, and my fellow students thousands of questions over the years, and every single time I got a thoughtful, detailed response. So this isn't going to be the first time you heard it, and it isn't exactly a groundbreaking piece of wisdom, but my advice to all the graduates is to never be afraid to ask questions. If we ask questions and continue to be open to learning new things, I'm confident that everything is going to turn out all right. My second piece of advice is to never design an educational building with exposed aggregate floors that people will consistently roll loud, heavy metal carts over during lecture times. Congratulations, everybody. It was a pleasure to be a classmate with you all.
Thank you for those words of wisdom, for something for your speech. Thank you. It is now my privilege to introduce our distinguished guest speaker and alumnus, Mr. Marcus Thomas. Marcus earned his Bachelor of Civil Engineering degree in 1994. During his years at the university, he immersed himself in his academics and in the pride of Minnesota, the University of Minnesota Marching Band. An internship experience with Bolton & Mink, a consulting firm in the Twin Cities, afforded him a full-time position immediately after earning his bachelor's degree, and he has developed his entire career with Bolton & Mink, dedicating his efforts to the values and success of the firm and taking advantage of the growth opportunities that the firm and the civil engineering profession has given him. He currently sits on the firm's board of directors. During his career as a consultant, Marcus has built a diverse resume of projects focused on improving Minnesota cities. He has assisted in reclaiming environmentally damaged sites and reestablishing them as natural public amenities. His infrastructure reconstruction projects have been catalysts for economic growth and revitalized downtowns. Many of his projects have been recognized by awards from the American Public Works Association, the Minnesota Society of Professional Engineers, and the American Council of Engineering Companies. Marcus is also incredibly active outside his professional career, and I'll mention only two of those activities. He's an active member of the department's Professional Advisory Board and the University of Minnesota Band Alumni Society. While it has been 28 years since he attended the University of Minnesota, Marcus still insists on identifying himself as a recent graduate. He and his wife, who met in the marching band, always find an excuse to come back to campus. They have 2 children, a daughter who is, and a son who will be a Golden Gopher. Please join me in welcoming Marcus Thomas.
Well, good morning. Good morning. Thank you for welcoming me. Thank you, Joe. Would really like to extend a special thank you to Professor Labuz for inviting me to speak this morning, and also want to thank you for your dedication, your commitment, and your contributions that you've made to the CEGE department for over 30 years. As the department head for the past 10 years, you've been committed to recruiting top faculty, maintaining a curriculum rooted in both research and experiential learning, and ensuring that graduates are prepared to enter the workforce with contemporary, industry-based knowledge coupled with foundational problem-solving skills. Year after year, the caliber of graduates has continued to go up, and as a testament to your and the department's ability to produce some of the most outstanding engineers in the industry, I think we would all here agree that this class before us is the most talented yet, wouldn't we? Well, thank you again. Thank you. We look forward to your continued contributions to the department as a researcher and as an instructor, and now we have a renewed optimism and excitement for the continued success of the department as we look forward to Professor Paige Novak taking the reins as CEGE's first female department head. So congratulations to you. Very excited to see all that you'll accomplish in your new role. Well, you know, as formal as these ceremonies can be, it really is fun to see the pent-up and controlled excitement in the eyes of you all, but also still sitting there so properly, doing your best to please your parents, your friends, and your relatives that might be here to see you. All of you feeling extreme pride, knowing that you have accomplished what you set out to do 4, 5, or maybe even 6 years ago. Some of you feeling vulnerable, realizing that your lives, which have been subject to the cyclical routines and year after year structure of a formal education, is really about to change. Some of you feeling somewhat fearful, looking ahead to the challenge of initiating a career that is hopefully rewarding. And some of you simply savoring feelings of relief, that after years of lost sleep, poor diets, nomadic housing, and accrued debt, you've got a piece of paper signed by the university's president to show for it. Well, no matter how each one of you feels today, speaking for myself and for all those who are here to celebrate with you, I can tell you we feel the same. So proud of you and happy for what you've accomplished as individuals. Well, I have had this honor once before, the opportunity to speak to a graduating class of the University of Minnesota's CEGE department. It was in 2010, 12 years ago. And as I prepared for today's address and thought about today's world as a backdrop to your college careers and the future that lies ahead of you, I reflected back on that 2010 class, what was happening in the world at that time, and what opportunities and challenges those graduates were facing as they prepared to start their careers. Well, most prominently in 2010, there was the Great Recession, limiting job opportunities for those graduates and prompting some to head to grad school to ride out the economic recovery. In 2010, there was actually an almost forgotten about pandemic at that time called the swine flu, whose impacts very much pale in comparison to what we've all experienced during COVID-19. BP's Deepwater Horizon oil rig exploded in the Gulf of Mexico that year, causing the worst oil spill in US history. And on the engineering and technology front, the first 24-hour flight by a solar-powered plane was successfully completed in 2010. Dubai opened what is still the world's tallest building, Burj Khalifa, extending over a half of a mile into the sky. Apple released its first iPad. And in 2010, the very first Instagram posts were made. Well, a lot has changed over the past 12 years, and the influence of those 2010 events on those graduates of that day have subsided considerably. The class of 2022 now takes off in a world and amongst current events that will arguably be impacting and influencing us far longer than those events of 2010. And to watch how each of you have navigated the unexpected adversity that has been layered upon you during your college careers really illustrates a level of perseverance and resiliency unmatched by any class before you. Forced to accept the unacceptable. I've watched you all adapt to new ways of learning, to new ways of communicating, to new ways of socializing and maintaining personal and professional relationships. I've heard you call out injustices when you see them, without reservation, when people of any background are mistreated or unfairly denied the opportunities any individual should have. I've seen you set new expectations for yourself and for this university. You are a group of people who have collaborated with each other and some of the best educators in the world to amass a knowledge base capable of changing this world. You are a pool of individuals that will disperse, some staying nearby, some with plans to relocate to other states, and perhaps some intending to return to home countries beyond the US. But each with your own unique set of talents and individual aspirations that will change lives, including my own. You're entering our profession with communication and problem-solving skills that might be different than my own, but they're bound to synergize with and improve the way we do business in our field today. I would say in my 28 years as a practicing civil engineer, I have never been more influenced or inspired by a generation of new engineers as I have been by yours. You've all made it very clear to me what is important to you. Your values, shaped by your personal experiences, your knowledge, garnered from an engineering degree from this great University of Minnesota, have given you perspective and clarity of some of the most important challenges our world faces, as well as an understanding of how to make positive change and course corrections that can truly elevate the health and sustainability of our world and the people who inhabit it. What I see specifically in this graduating class of engineers is an inherent love and support for humanity and our natural environment. It's also clear to me that you recognize the many roles you can play as civil, environmental, and geoengineers to create a built environment with a greater focus on sustainability and equity. You know, I don't think it would be a shock to any of you if I were to remind everyone that infrastructure has not always been built in the best interests of all people or the environment. While it certainly is the foundation of modern civilization, providing what most of us would consider human necessities, our roads, potable water, electricity, sanitation, the homes we live in, these benefits have been provided to us many times at great cost. In the absence of the heightened awareness and sensitivity that I recognize in your generation of engineers, the infrastructure designed and built by past generations has in some instances caused damage to wildlife, to wild places, and even to our own communities. Today we find ourselves fighting to reclaim the quality of our rivers, lakes, and streams. More than 1/3 of our lakes are polluted and unfit for swimming, fishing, and drinking. And nearly half of our rivers are in that same condition. We know that stormwater runoff from our built environment is a primary contributor to this degradation. We know that climate change is occurring and is influenced in part by our transportation systems, which have for generations accommodated and really encouraged travel by single occupancy vehicles, the result being a continuous increase in greenhouse gas generation on a per capita basis. And when evaluating the impacts from an ecological perspective, it's clear that the natural boundaries of wildlife habitats have been dramatically reshaped, fragmented, and reduced, the result being scarcer and more challenging access to food sources, disruption to natural migration patterns, and increased mortality rates, endangering the existence of some animal species. And while it may be easy to sometimes look past these environmental impacts because they may not feel like they directly affect you or me, we must also recognize that in some cases, insensitive planning and development decisions made by past generations have cumulatively impeded opportunities for people and depreciated the quality of life in some neighborhoods and communities. Take, for example, the Rondo neighborhood in the city of St. Paul. The Rondo neighborhood from the 1930s going into the 1950s was a flourishing middle-class community, home to predominantly African-American residents and business owners. 85% of St. Paul's Black population at that time, as a matter of fact, lived in Rondo. Families owned their own homes and businesses were thriving. But it all came to an abrupt halt when banks devalued the neighborhood properties through redlining, and the Federal Highway Administration acquired the property it needed for pennies on the dollar in order to make way for a new freeway. Interstate 94, as we're familiar with it today, stretching from Lexington Avenue to Rice Street. The new interstate demolished 700 family homes and wiped out 300 local businesses, leaving only memories for those that lived there. And while the 1950s destruction of that neighborhood may seem so long ago, those past infrastructure decisions are still being felt by the descendants of Rondo today, descendants like myself. According to a recently completed past prosperity study, the generations following those families who owned those homes in that original neighborhood have lost $270 million in equity since then. Over $250 million in personal economic growth exchanged for the construction of the freeway. Imagine what Rondo could have been today had its trajectory not been so drastically changed by that infrastructure project. Now, amongst these examples of past mistakes that I bring up with you, let me be clear on my overall admiration for the work we do as engineers. As we literally reshape the world with our project, the population relies on us to make responsible decisions. And quite frankly, it's taken for granted that we'll do so, and that's not entirely a bad thing. To a certain extent, it's a sign of a job well done. We don't expect hallelujahs every time someone turns on a faucet, gets into an elevator, or flushes a toilet, and it actually works. People should be able to enjoy the fruits of our labor without a second thought. Reliability, that's what creates a higher quality of life, knowing it's going to be there today and tomorrow. So now I turn my attention back to you and what I've learned from your generation. This is a class that calls out the need for a healthier environment. This is a class that has seen current day inequities in practice and demands better. This is a class that sees no other option besides a complete paradigm shift and how we better design and operate our built environment in the future. This is a class that can be remembered for its influence on setting a new trajectory of sustainability and equity in infrastructure. Our aptitude and talents as engineers are certainly exemplified in the infrastructure that we design and build, but so are our values. What is your work going to represent? My final sentiment that I'd like to share with you all today is with regards to maintaining the integrity and the value of the civil, environmental, and geoengineering professions, a value that's threatened to be diminished. This is actually a real and increasingly serious issue that we as engineers are facing today. Let's start by just thinking about the efforts you've exhausted as undergraduate student to earn your place in that seat this morning. Recap the extent of subject matter that you've absorbed here at the university and realize the sophistication of the education that you've obtained. The capabilities and skills you leave with today are extraordinary and were gained through an exceptional combination of hard work, commitment, and raw intelligence. An engineering curriculum certainly isn't for the cavalier student, is it? Your accomplishment of graduating from this program and being able to leave here identifying yourself as a civil, environmental, or geoengineer is of great significance. Now, some of you will go on to graduate school, forging a course specific to your interests and expertise, reaching even higher academic standards and offering that much more insight and intellect to our field. Then, upon graduation, whether it be with your bachelor's, your master's, or your doctorate, you'll go into practice. And for the next several years, you'll serve the profession as graduate engineers, applying what you've learned to the quote-unquote real world, receiving further direction from more experienced engineers, and undoubtedly teaching some new dogs some new tricks along the way. And through this period of apprenticeship, you'll continue to learn. And with the abundance of knowledge gained over these years, you will have also acquired judgment, an augmentation to your formal education that makes you twice as valuable and half as dangerous as you all are today. And with this experience and one more arduous exam, of course, you will have earned the privilege of licensure, constituting a level of engineering achievement that is so critical to providing the basic services people expect from us on a daily basis. Let's go back to those mundane experiences of turning on your faucet, or using an elevator, or flushing a toilet. To you non-engineers that are in the room today, what is the value of those people that deliver those conveniences to you every day? Now, don't confuse my remarks with arrogance, please, but understand them rather as a response to a developing culture of apathy and indifference we seem to be facing in our field. A culture that is reducing the worth of our professional expertise to that of an ordinary commodity, something you can get from anyone, anywhere. The value of our work needs to be preserved, and it starts among ourselves with our commitments to each other and to our profession. Commitments to our employers, our constituents, and our clients. Commitments to partnerships, even amongst competition. Commitments to ethics and prioritizing public welfare above all else. Commitments to quality-based selection in commissioning engineering services rather than low bid. And commitments to public awareness and education through active participation with professional societies, governments, and academia. We are the ones who are responsible for maintaining the integrity of our profession. So look to your colleague sitting to your left, students, and look to your colleague sitting to your right. Now promise them that you will follow through with these commitments to each other and to our profession. Responsibilities to our natural environment, responsibility to equity and infrastructure, promises we make to future generations, and promises we make to each other to maintain the integrity of our profession. These are the responsibilities being delivered to you today. And perhaps to many of you, it may sound like I'm simply preaching to the choir with regards to these obligations and as well as the opportunities that you know you all have. But that's what I sincerely hope for and what I expect out of this class. Because this 2022 class of CEGE engineers coming out of the University of Minnesota is better educated than ever. This class of engineers enters our profession with unparalleled resiliency. And this class of engineers has a heightened sensitivity to the need for a sustainable and equitable future. After today, this class will integrate itself into our governments, into our consulting firms, and into our industries. And as I mentioned earlier, you will change the way we all do business. You must give us new perspectives and redefine the role of engineers in our society. And you must elevate the status and reputation of our profession. And I can stand here as an alumnus of this department and sincerely declare that I could not place a higher level of trust in any other class in any other university than the one that I stand here before today. I'm excited to get to know you. I look forward to working with you, and I am extremely confident in all that we will achieve together. You've got tremendous momentum coming out of this University of Minnesota. Let that carry you and our profession to new heights. I thank each of you for your decision to become civil, environmental, and geoengineers. I thank you for your hard work, your late nights, and your commitment to absorbing the great education this department provides. And I thank you in advance for your contributions to the field. I wish you all well as you take these next huge steps in your lives and in your careers. Congratulations, Golden Gopher engineers.
Thank you so much, Marcus, for that inspiring address, and please accept this small token of our appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The next part of our ceremony involves 2 awards, a faculty award named the Bonestru Rosine Anderlich Best Instructor Award, decided by the students, and the Outstanding Student Award named the Simon and Claire Benson Award, decided by the faculty. To present the faculty award, I'm delighted to introduce Emma Ogdahl, a civil engineering major and the president of the American Society of Civil Engineers Student Chapter. Emma?
Hi, my name is Emma Ogdahl, and as Professor Labuz said, I served as the president of ASC this year. I have the pleasure of presenting the BRA Best Instructor Award this year. The recipient of this award is chosen by popular vote each year and reflects who students see as a passionate and caring instructor that makes their education just a little more valuable. This year, the recipient of the award is someone who I've personally had the pleasure of having twice as an instructor. He brings a great energy to every class that he teaches and truly wants to see each of his students succeed. This award goes to Professor Randall Barnes.
Randall couldn't join us today, but he is participating remotely, so congratulations, Randall. To present the Student Award, it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Professor Stefano Gonella, Chair of the Awards Committee. Stefano?
Good morning. My name is Stefano Gonella. I'm a professor in the Department of Civil, Environmental, and Geoengineering, and I also have the pleasure to serve as the chair of the Awards or Citation Committee, whose task is to identify the recipients of our departmental student awards. The committee is composed of myself, Professor Michele Guala, and Professor Gialli Anglais, who are both in the audience. So I would like to start taking the opportunity to thank both of them for the great help with this mission. So every year we receive nominations from the faculty, and based on this input, we interview a selected group of students. And since many of the students are seniors, these interviews really give us one last opportunity to meet with them and give them a sort of farewell as they are about to step into their next chapters of their professional or academic lives. Perhaps the most important of the committee's task is the selection of the annual recipient of the Simon and Claire Benson Award. And today I have the pleasure to announce the recipient for 2022. But before I do that, let me share with you a few details about the purpose and the history of this award. So I'm going to quote a little excerpt from the bylaws of the award. Quote, "The Simon and Claire Benson Award is presented annually to a civil, environmental, or geoengineering student whose performance is judged to be outstanding in a manner that exceeds academic achievement alone. Typical considerations for this citation are outstanding research, leadership, oral presentation, and effort or improvement." In 1986, the civil engineering faculty voted to designate the former CE Citation for Outstanding Undergraduate Performance as the Simon and Claire Benson Award, in memory of 2 former outstanding civil engineering undergraduates of the department, brother and sister, who were tragically killed in a car accident in August of 1986. Claire was a recipient of the award. In 1985, Simon graduated 1 year before the award was instituted, but would have been a worthy recipient, end quote. So this award is the highest honor bestowed on a student by the faculty of the Department of Civil, Environmental, and Geoengineering. So in essence, with this award, we accomplish 2 objectives at once. On one end, we recognize some of the most outstanding students of our graduating class. And at the same time, we remember two alumni of the department who unfortunately are not among us anymore, but have left a long-lasting and inspirational legacy for the rest of us. So like every year this spring, we had the pleasure to interview a number of highly deserving candidates. And after careful reflection and discussion, we eventually reached a unanimous selection that we believe as a committee is a very appropriate representation of the strength of this graduating class. So this year, we will have two ex aequo Benson Awards. Both the students deeply impressed us with their records, with their determination, and with the demeanor shown during the interview. Each of the two profiles tells a personal story and embodies a distinct personal path towards excellence. The first student is graduating with a degree in environmental engineering. Her classroom performance has been impeccable throughout her studies. What's most remarkable about her classwork, even more than the GPA, is her inquisitive, curious, and creative mindset, which was equally recognized by all her instructors over the years. She has been heavily involved with research in a number of labs, most notably in the past couple of years working under the guidance of Professor Olmanson in the area of remote sensing of water resources, where she has compared methodologies for remote sensing of water color as an indicator of chemical and biological activity in water. So the award goes to Martha Burkett. Unfortunately, Martha could not be here with us today, but I'm glad we could recognize her in absentia with your applause. So, thank you. The next student is graduating also with a degree in environmental engineering. Over the past couple of years, she has been heavily involved with research in Professor LaPara's group in the field of wastewater treatment, studying the effects of Minnesota water on the hypoxic zone in the Gulf of Mexico. Her approach to coursework and academics has been a constant statement of determination and hard work, which has led her not only to excellent academic results, but more importantly to the development of a sincere and thoughtful passion for environmental science and engineering. When we interviewed the student, we were very impressed by her maturity and the maturity of her reflection of her academic path and by her ability to work through challenges towards her academic goals, progressively leading to a stronger and stronger connection with her field of study. And in fact, this connection will continue next year when she will attend graduate school at the University of Wisconsin, continuing her studies in environmental engineering. So the award goes to Ann Tuttle. So if Ann is here, I thought Annie was here, but maybe she's not. Oh, she's here. So please come to be recognized. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is what I have for the awards. Thank you.
The graduates will now accept the obligation to the Order of the Engineer. Graduates, at the end of the oath called the obligation, place the engineer's ring on the little finger of your working hand. Typically, this is done by the delegate for the order, but because of the pandemic, you will place the ring on your finger. When you are called to the stage and recognized as a graduate of the University of Minnesota, you may place your hand through our ceremonial ring on the table that's fabricated from steel obtained from the 2007 collapse of the original 35W bridge. Catherine French, Distinguished Professor of the College of Science and Engineering and Delegate of the Order, will lead the ceremony. Kath?
Thank you, Joe. It's my privilege on the behalf of the National Order of the Engineer to preside and to lead this ceremony today. This ceremony presents an opportunity for us to take a pledge and to recall the professional purpose of engineering involves the pursuit of a learned art in the spirit of public service. By following the acceptance of the obligation, the individual engineer reinforces similar efforts of his or her peers, realizing that in unity there's strength. Decades ago, our engineering counterparts in Canada had the same feeling. They believed that their need existed for the introduction of a spirit of cohesiveness among engineers. The Canadians believed that a good way to achieve this purpose would be to instill in engineers a consciousness of belonging to one another, to themselves as individuals, and to those whom they serve. Thus was done in 1926 in Canada in what is now known as the ritual of the calling of an engineer. The words of the ritual were written by the English author Rudyard Kipling, who had much depth of feeling for engineers as builders of things intended to benefit mankind. In Ohio, the idea of a similar maxims to those were established, and in 1966, a group of engineers of several different engineering professions began to pursue the objective of what became called the Order of the Engineer. Seniors of Fenn College of Engineering at Cleveland State University designed and held a ring ceremony, and the first reception was held on June 4th of 1970. Since then, the movement has spread rapidly across the United States, and it's patterned on the Canadian concept, but with the stainless steel ring symbolizing the strength and the unity of the profession, and providing an identifying mark of engineers. A little bit about the significance of the order. The Order of the Engineer, to which you'll soon belong, is an independent organization. The purpose is to foster a feeling of pride and dedication to that profession which binds us together. You're asked to accept with pride the meaning of the ceremony to which you're about to subscribe. The obligation should be freely given and the responsibility gladly accepted. The order is symbolized by the acceptance of the obligation and the wearing of the stainless steel ring on the small finger of your working hand. The obligation is a formal statement of an engineer's responsibility to the public and to the profession. It's a creed similar to the Hippocratic Oath that's commonly taken by medical school graduates, and which sets forth an ethical code. The obligation likewise contains parts of the canon of ethics of major engineering organizations. Initiates, as they voluntarily accept it, pledge to uphold the standards and dignity of the engineering profession, and to serve humanity by making best use of the Earth's precious and limited resources. The obligation is a composite of several creeds. It emphasizes the fact that we as engineers have certain obligations. It promotes honesty and integrity, and recognizes that today's engineers are dependent on their predecessors for their skills. As was mentioned earlier by our speaker, asked many questions, and as mentioned by our other speaker, Marcus, that you, under the mentorship of your engineers, as you go through the Fundamentals of Engineering exam, will become professional engineers one day. The significance of the ring. The ring is a symbol of pride, prestige and honor, and professionalism among all engineering of the United States. It also serves as a reminder to the engineer of our obligation to society. The symbol of your desire to serve the public is the engineer's ring. The ring that you'll wear on your working hand will say to all who see it, here is an engineer, possessed of a publicly avowed dedication to the profession and the public who they will serve. Will all the candidates for induction into the order please rise? And will all current members of the order also please stand? Candidates for the Order of the Engineer is an independent movement The purpose is to foster a feeling of pride and dedication to our profession. Your membership is symbolized, as I mentioned, by the obligation and the wearing of the stainless steel ring on the small finger of your working hand. There are no meetings other than the ceremony, and there are no dues. So on the screen, I have projected the order of the obligation of the engineer, and we'll recite it together, but please raise your right hand. I am an engineer, and recite it with me, please. I am an engineer. In my profession, I take deep pride. To it, I owe solemn obligations. As an engineer, I pledge to practice integrity and fair dealing, tolerance and respect, and to uphold the devotion to the standards and the dignity of my profession, conscious always that my skill carries with it the obligation to serve humanity by making the best use of Earth's precious wealth. As an engineer, I shall participate in none but honest enterprises. When needed, my skill and knowledge shall be given without reservation for the public good. In the performance of duty and in fidelity to my profession, I shall give my utmost. In a few minutes, in the presence of your fellow engineers, you'll be called forward to receive your signed certificate. You may be seated now, and I just have a few concluding remarks. I welcome each of you to the privileges and the obligations of the Order of the Engineer. The ring is a reminder of your calling. The certificate is your creed. It bears your name and signature. It's your pact with your profession. Read it thoughtfully. Regard it with humility. Wear your ring proudly and with distinction, for you are an engineer. I ask the audience now to join me in congratulating the newest members of the Order of the Engineer.
Now for the main part of the ceremony, the recognition of our graduates. Professor Aaron Serto, Chair of the Undergraduate Studies Committee, will announce the names. Graduates, please assemble by major and alphabetically in the back of the auditorium so you can get up and go. When you reach the podium, give your name card to Professor Serto, who will announce your name. Proceed to the stage to receive your certificate and place your hand through the ceremonial ring. You will also receive congratulatory words, not handshakes, from the faculty. Faculty, please line up in the aisle that you're near. And audience, please hold your applause until we are finished announcing the names of all the graduates.
Lydia Anshoes. Emma Ogdahl. Justin Babcock. Jeffrey Bauers. Woo! Dylan Blum. Brady Bokers. Britta Carita Carlson. Mats Dale. Yuan Dao. Mariah Fournier. Jackson Hickle. Zoe Jeske. Reese Johnson. Alec James Lawrence. Jacob Klages. Kenan Miller. Liam Mullen. Emma Myers Verhage. Chimdima Anyuke. Alana Pullman. Amanda Raymond. Jake Robinwald. Blake Raymond Rudd. Brandy Rutten. Cameron Schaller. Michael Smith. Owen Turner. Kelly Ehrman. Eric Wurst. Congratulations to all of our civil engineering graduates. Now for our environmental engineering graduates. Annika Alderink. Catherine Clowerty. Karen Cook. Haley Dijak. Olivia Holgate. Annika Mick.
Awesome!
Allie Nguyen. Tristan Neese. Alexander Robertson. Salome Rostami. Ann Tuttle. Congratulations to our environmental engineering graduates.
Okay, this almost concludes our spring graduation ceremony. You are invited to the Civil Engineering Building, which is about 200 meters away, for a reception on the second floor of our building, and that's down. Also, please view the achievements of our graduates through a slideshow display of their capstone design projects in room 210 on the same level as the student lounge. Graduates, at the conclusion of the ceremony, please gather in front of the auditorium for a class photograph. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank the staff for the organization of this ceremony, as well as other events throughout the years. So Tiffany, Mary. Okay, in closing, graduates with Bachelor of Engineering degrees from the University of Minnesota, you are recognized as individuals of high ability and intellect. However, I leave you with a quote from Professor Albus Dumbledore. It is our choices that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. Graduates, congratulations on your achievements and make good choices. Class of 2022 dismissed. Go Gophers!